Who sent you? 3 words, cold as the blizzard outside, sharp as the gun in his hand. Amina Carter stared at the man who stood between her and the parking garage exit, trying to remember how to breathe, trying to remember how she'd ended up here, in an underground compound, surrounded by expensive cars and armed men, facing someone who looked at her like she was a problem that needed solving. Fast, but let's back up, because 12 hours ago, Amina was just trying to survive the night. And now she was trapped in the world of the Korean Mafia, claimed by a man who didn't believe in letting go. This is a story about desperation and choice, about what happens when the coldest night of your life leads you to the warmest and most dangerous place you've ever been. So the question isn't who sent her. The question is, what would you do if the only warm place left in the world belonged to someone who could destroy you? 12 hours earlier, Manhattan was drowning in snow. The blizzard had started at noon and hadn't stopped. Wind howled down empty streets, turning snowflakes into horizontal knives. The temperature had dropped to 5 below zero. Wind chill made it feel like -20. Amina's hands had gone numb 2 hours ago. She stood on a deserted side street in Lower Manhattan, exhaling white clouds into the dark. Her torn coat did nothing against the cold. Her boots had holes that let in slush with every step. The shelter on 34th Street had closed its doors at 8, capacity reached. The subway stations were packed with others like her, and transit police swept through every 20 minutes, making sure no one stayed too long. Amina had nowhere to go. 6 months ago, she'd had an apartment in Queens, had a job as a caregiver for Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman with dementia. The pay wasn't much, but it was steady. The apartment was small, but it was hers. Then Mrs. Chen died. The family didn't need Amina anymore. 2 months later, her landlord sold the building. Amina's savings vanished on deposits for apartments that never called back. References from a dead woman don't open doors. Now here she was, 22 years old, and invisible. That's when she saw it. A black Lexus LX sat alone beneath a broken street lamp, engine running, red taillights glowing through the whiteout. No driver, no movement, just warmth, humming softly in the dark. Earlier that evening, Amina had shared a doorway near Port Authority with Eden, another woman surviving on the streets. Eden was older, maybe 40, with gray-streaked hair and eyes that had seen everything twice. "You see cars like that?" Eden had grabbed Amina's arm, her grip urgent. Black luxury cars sitting empty in strange places. You walk away, don't get curious, don't think about the warmth inside. "Why?" Amina had asked. "Because those are mafia cars, and people who touch them disappear." Amina had nodded, thinking Eden was being paranoid. Now, standing alone on this frozen street, those words echoed loud. "Walk away," Eden's voice whispered. But Amina couldn't feel her feet anymore, couldn't feel her fingers. The cold had crawled inside her lungs, turning each breath into broken glass. 5 minutes, she told herself, just enough to stop shaking. She approached the Lexus, every survival instinct screaming at her to run. But where? Back into the storm? Back to doorways and subway platforms and the slow death of freezing? The door was locked. Amina pulled out a bent piece of metal she'd salvaged weeks ago, back when Mrs. Chen used to lock herself in rooms and panic. Amina had learned to open doors without keys. a necessary skill for caring for someone who forgot why they were afraid. Her frozen fingers barely worked. She tried once, twice, 3 times, then, click, the lock gave. "I'm sorry, Eden," Amina thought as she pulled the door open. She climbed into the back seat and pulled the door shut. Heat enveloped her like a prayer answered. Cedar and leather and something sharper, cologne maybe, or gun oil. Amina curled into the corner, knees to chest, and closed her eyes. Just 5 minutes. Then she'd leave, but exhaustion pulled her under like an ocean wave. She didn't hear the footsteps approaching through the snow. Didn't see the figure in the long black coat pause at the driver's window, his breath fogging the glass as he noticed the disturbed frost on the rear door handle. Kaido Ri's hand moved to the weapon beneath his coat. Then he saw her in the rearview mirror, a small shaking shape in his back seat. He didn't call his men, not yet. Instead, he got in the driver's seat, locked all the doors, and drove. Amina woke to silence. Not the howling wind, not the traffic noise, not even the hum of the car engine. Just nothing. Wrong. That was wrong. Her eyes snapped open. The panic was immediate, flooding her system with adrenaline. The car wasn't moving. She wasn't on the street anymore. Fluorescent lights glared down through the windows, white and cold and institutional. Concrete pillars rose around the Lexus in perfect rows. Other cars, all black, all expensive, sat in neat lines. Underground parking garage. Oh God, what did I do? Amina scrambled for the door handle, her fingers clumsy with renewed fear. The lock clicked. She shoved the door open and half fell onto the cold concrete floor, her legs barely holding her weight. She caught herself against the side of the car, breathing hard. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard it hurt. "Run," her instincts screamed. Run now, but where? She had no idea where she was, no idea how to get out. And even if she made it to the street, then what? Back into the blizzard? Back into the cold that had almost killed her? "Stay still." The voice came from behind her, low, measured, speaking English with a precise accent that made each word sound like a command. Every muscle in Amina's body locked. Footsteps echoed in the garage, slow, deliberate, coming closer. She forced herself to turn around. The man stood 15 feet away, hands in the pockets of a long black coat that probably cost more than everything Amina had ever owned. Tall, maybe 6 feet, lean build, with sharp features that looked carved rather than born. His hair was dark, pushed back from his face. His skin was pale in the fluorescent light. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. They were dark, almost black, and completely still, like looking into deep water. They gave away nothing, no anger, no surprise, no emotion at all, just calm, cold assessment. He could have been 30 or 40, could have been kind or cruel. Amina had no way to tell. In his right hand, held casual as a phone, was a gun, not pointed at her, just there, present. "Who sent you?" His tone didn't change, didn't rise or fall, just flat, clinical. "No one." Amina's voice came out as a whisper. She tried again, louder. "No one sent me." "Try again." "I'm telling the truth. No one sent me. Her voice cracked. "I was cold. I needed to get warm. I didn't mean to." "You picked my lock in 12 seconds. He tilted his head slightly, like she was a specimen he was studying. "That's not amateur behavior. That's training. I'm not trained, I used to take care of someone who. Amina's words tumbled over each other. She had dementia. She'd lock doors and forget. I had to learn. It was the only way to help her when she got scared. Something flickered across his face. Not sympathy, not belief either. Just recognition, maybe. Like he'd filed that information away for later consideration. Show me your hands. Amina hesitated, then held them out. They shook. She couldn't stop them from shaking. Her hands told their own story. Purple bruises mottled her knuckles. Her fingernails were cracked and broken. Dirt was embedded under what was left of them. The skin on her palms was rough, scarred from sleeping on concrete and metal grates. These were not the hands of someone dangerous. These were the hands of someone barely surviving. The man stepped closer. Amina flinched but didn't run. Some instinct told her that running would end very, very badly. He reached out, slowly, deliberately, and touched her left wrist with 2 fingers. Not grabbing, just touching, checking her pulse maybe, or her temperature. His fingers were warm, steady, her wrist was ice. He held the touch for 3 seconds, 5, then let go and stepped back. You would have died out there, he said quietly. Not a question, a fact. Yes, no point in lying. They both knew it was true. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The garage was utterly silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Amina's mind raced. What did he want? Why hadn't he called the police? Or just shot her? Men who carried guns in parking garages usually weren't the forgiving type. Maybe that's what was coming. Maybe he was just deciding how to dispose of her quietly. Then Amina's legs gave out, not dramatically, just stopped working. The adrenaline crash hit all at once, and her knees buckled. She didn't hit the ground. Strong arms caught her, one under her knees, one behind her back. The man who'd been standing 6 feet away was suddenly holding her, lifting her like she weighed nothing. Amina tried to protest, but no sound came out. You're freezing to death, he said, his voice closer now, softer but no less controlled. I don't let people die in my car. It wasn't kindness, it was something else. Pride, maybe, or just practicality. He carried her toward a steel door with a keypad, shifted her weight slightly. She felt his muscles adjust, felt how easily he held her, while he punched in a code. The door clicked open. Inside was an elevator. Not a normal building elevator with buttons and floor numbers and scratched metal walls. This was something else. Polished wood panels, soft lighting that didn't hurt to look at, no control panel, just a card reader. The man, her captor, her savior, Amina didn't even know what to call him, stepped inside, still holding her. The doors slid shut with a whisper. Amina's head rested against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady, unhurried. Like carrying half-frozen women out of parking garages was something he did regularly. Maybe it was. Where are we going? Her voice was small, scared, nothing like the confident voice she'd had when Mrs. Chen was alive and Amina had a job and a life that made sense. Somewhere you won't die. The elevator rose without sound, smooth, fast. Amina tried to focus, tried to make sense of what was happening, but the warmth from his body was seeping into her, and her mind felt wrapped in cotton. This is dangerous, she thought. This is so dangerous. But she was so tired of being cold, so tired of being afraid, so tired of trying to survive One more hour, one more night, one more impossible day. The elevator opened into a hallway that looked nothing like any building Amina had ever been in. Dark wood floors that gleamed. Art on the walls, real art, not prints. Paintings that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. The lighting was warm, subtle, coming from fixtures that looked designed rather than installed. A man waited outside the elevator, Asian, like the one carrying her. Maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes and a weapon holstered at his hip. He looked at Amina, then at the man holding her, and his expression went carefully blank. "Boss," the waiting man said. Boss. So the man carrying her was in charge. That was either very good or very, very bad. Jinwoo, prepare a room, food, dry clothes, medical supplies. Jinwoo started. Not a discussion. Jinwoo's jaw clenched, but he nodded and disappeared through a side door. The boss carried Amina down the hall. She glimpsed other doors, all closed, all identical. This wasn't a home. It was something else. A compound, maybe, or headquarters. He shouldered open a door and stepped into a small room. Clean, simple, a bed with white sheets, a bathroom door, a single window covered by heavy curtains. He set her down on the bed carefully, then stepped back. For the first time since the garage, his expression shifted slightly. Not quite concern, not quite warmth, but something adjacent to both. "Don't leave this room," he said. "I wouldn't know where to go." The truth. She had no idea where she was or how she'd gotten here. A ghost of something passed across his face. Almost a smile, but smile, but not quite. "No," he said quietly. "I suppose you wouldn't." He turned toward the door. "Wait!" Amna's voice stopped him. "What's your name?" He paused, hand on the doorframe. Looked back over his shoulder. For just a second, she saw something in his eyes. Something that might have been curiosity. "Kaido." Then he left. The door closed with a soft click. Amna heard the lock engage. She sat on the bed, alone in this clean, warm, quiet room, and tried to process what had just happened. She was alive. That was good. She was warm. That was better. She was locked in a room by a man with a gun who'd asked who sent her. That was complicated. Amina looked at the door, looked at the window, looked at the bathroom. Then she looked at the bed. It had been 6 months since she'd slept in a real bed. 6 months of concrete and cardboard and subway benches and doorways. This bed had pillows, clean sheets, a blanket that looked thick and soft. Amina made a decision. Whatever was going to happen would happen whether she was rested or not. And if this was the last comfortable place she'd ever be, she was going to appreciate it. She lay down on the bed, pulled the blanket over herself, and closed her eyes. Within seconds, she was asleep, deep, dreamless, the kind of sleep that comes when your body finally feels safe. In the hallway outside, Kaido stood with Jinwoo, speaking in low Korean. "What are you doing?" Jinwoo asked. "She's a stranger, could be anyone, could be working for—" "She's not working for anyone." Kaido kept his voice quiet. "Look at her hands, look at her clothes. She's homeless, desperate, just trying to survive. Then we give her money and send her on her way." "In a blizzard? To freeze to death on our doorstep?" Jinwoo's expression hardened. "Since when do you care about that?" Good question. Kaido didn't have a good answer. "Run her information," he said instead. "See if there's anything in the system. any warrants, any connections to rival organizations, but do it quietly. And if she's clean, then we keep her here until the storm passes, then we decide. Jinwoo nodded, clearly not happy but willing to obey. Your father's going to ask questions. Let him ask. Jinwoo left to make the calls. Kaido stood outside the locked room for another moment, listening to the silence from inside. He should walk away. Should let Jinwoo handle this. Should treat it like what it was, a minor security breach, easily resolved. But something made him stay. The way she'd stood in the snow, shaking. The desperate hope on her face when she'd looked at his car. The skill with which she'd picked his lock. Not professional, not trained, just practical. Learned out of necessity. The way she'd looked at him in the garage. Not with calculation or lies, but with genuine fear and genuine honesty. And the way she'd said, I wouldn't know where to go, like someone who'd been lost for a very long time. Kaido recognized that look. He'd seen it in the mirror often enough. Finally, he turned and walked away. But as he did, he told himself that the tightness in his chest was just caution. Just professional concern about a potential security risk. It wasn't anything else. It couldn't be anything else. If you're captivated by stories where protection comes wrapped in unexpected complexity, subscribe now. You won't want to miss what happens next. Amna woke to sunlight. Real sunlight, not fluorescent lights. Golden and warm, filtering through the curtains. For a moment, she forgot where she was, forgot the blizzard, the car, the man with the gun. She just lay there, feeling warm and safe, and rested for the first time in forever. Then memory crashed back. She sat up fast, heart pounding. The room looked the same as last night, or whenever she'd fallen asleep. How long had she been out? Someone had been in here while she slept. Fresh clothes sat folded on the chair by the bed. Soft cotton pants, a sweater, thick socks, all clean, all roughly her size. On the nightstand sat a tray, rice, soupas amaster still warm, which meant someone had brought it recently. Amina's stomach growled so loudly it hurt. She couldn't remember the last time she'd had hot food, really hot, made with care food, not dumpster diving, not day-old bread from the shelter. Real food that someone had prepared and brought to her. She ate slowly at first, trying to be careful, but hunger took over and she devoured everything on the tray, her stomach cramping around each bite, as it remembered what food was supposed to feel like. The tea was perfect, not too hot, sweet enough. She wrapped her hands around the cup and just held it, feeling the warmth seep into her palms. When she finished, she tried the door, locked, right. She'd expected that. Amina looked around the room more carefully. The bathroom door was open. She went in, half expecting it to be as stark as the bedroom. But it wasn't. It was clean and well-appointed. Shower with good water pressure. Towels that were soft. Soap that smelled like cedar. She showered, her first real shower in weeks, and almost cried at how good the hot water felt. Stayed in until her skin was pink and pruny, and the water ran clear instead of gray. When she got out and dressed in the clean clothes someone had left, she felt almost human again. Almost. She was just sitting back on the bed when she heard the lock click. The door opened. Kaido entered, followed by the man from last night, Jinwoo. Kaido carried a chair, which he set down facing the bed. He sat, perfectly relaxed, one ankle crossed over his knee, hands loose, but his eyes were sharp, watching, assessing. Jinwoo positioned himself by the door, standing guard. Kaido watched Amina for a long moment without speaking. The silence stretched, became uncomfortable. "Better?" he asked finally. "Yes, thank you." "Don't thank me yet." His tone was mild, conversational, but something underneath was harder. "We need to talk." Amina's stomach tightened. "Okay. You picked my lock in 12 seconds. That's not luck. That's skill, trained skill." "I explained. I heard your explanation." He leaned forward slightly. "I want to hear it again. Slowly, everything from the beginning." So Amna told him. About growing up in the Bronx with her grandmother. About how her grandmother had worked 2 jobs to keep them fed and housed. About how Amina had promised to take care of her when she got old, the way her grandmother had taken care of her. About how her grandmother died when Amina was 19, and suddenly she was alone. About finding work as a caregiver. About meeting Mrs. Chen and her daughter. About learning patience and compassion and how to handle someone whose mind was slipping away. About the door locks, the forgotten keys, the panic attacks when Mrs. Chen got trapped in rooms and couldn't remember how she bamdueg. "She'd cry," Amina said quietly, "stand on the other side of the bathroom door and cry like a child. I couldn't leave her like that, so I learned. It took me weeks of practice with Mrs. Chen's daughter teaching me, but I learned." She told him about Mrs. Chen's death, about the family's kindness that ended at the grave, about losing her apartment, about trying to find work and failing, about the slow, terrible slide into homelessness, about learning which shelters opened when, which soup kitchens had the shortest lines, which subway stations the cops didn't check as often, which grates blew warm air, which dumpsters behind which restaurants had the newest trash, about the cold, the fear, the exhaustion, the slow erosion of everything that made her feel human, about standing in the blizzard last night, so cold she couldn't feel her feet, about seeing his car and knowing it was dangerous, but being so desperate that dangerous seemed better than dead. When she finished, the silence in the room was heavy. Kaido hadn't interrupted once, hadn't asked questions, had just listened. His face had stayed neutral the entire time, giving nothing away. Now he leaned back in his chair, considering. "You don't believe me," Amina said. Her voice was steady, resigned. "That's okay. I wouldn't believe me either." "I'm deciding," Kaido said. By the door, Jinwoo made a sound, not quite a scoff, more like suppressed frustration. Kaido glanced at him. "Something to say?" "Boss, we should wait outside, Jinwoo." Jinwoo's jaw clenched. For a moment, Amina thought he'd argue, but then he nodded stiffly and left, closing the door behind him. Now it was just the 2 of them. Kaido stood and walked to the window, pulled back the curtains slightly. Daylight poured in, making him look younger somehow. Less like the man with the gun in the garage, more like someone who was tired. "There's a complication," he said, still looking out the window. 2 nights before you entered my car, someone witnessed a transaction at the Hudson River piers. A shipment being loaded into a black van. The people involved don't leave witnesses. Amina's blood went cold. She remembered. Walking along the waterfront, looking for somewhere to shelter from the wind, seeing a black van parked at an angle. 3 men in expensive coats, completely wrong for the weather, which had made them stand out, loading something large wrapped in heavy plastic into the back. One of them had looked up, caught her eye for a split second. She'd kept walking, faster. Not running would have been noticed, but faster. "I didn't see anything," Amina said carefully. "I don't remember." "You just remembered." Kaido turned to look at her. "I can see it on your face. You saw something." "I don't know what I saw. It could have been anything. Furniture, supplies, It doesn't matter what it was. It matters that they think you saw it. And they're looking for you." He walked back to the chair and sat again, checking every shelter, every soup kitchen, offering money for information about a black woman, early 20s, seen near the piers that night. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. "So I'm not just someone who broke into your car. No, you're a witness to a Russian mafia operation, Kozlov's operation specifically." Kaido's expression remained neutral. "And the moment you got into my vehicle, you became visible. You became my responsibility." "Then let me go. I'll disappear. I'm good at that." "No, you're not. You survived because you were invisible. You're not invisible anymore. They have your description. They're offering money. Someone will talk. Someone always talks." "So what am I?" Amina's voice rose. "Your prisoner. You're someone I'm keeping alive." He leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Whether that feels like protection or imprisonment depends on how you look at it. But the fact remains, if you leave this building, you'll be dead within 24 hours. Kozlov's men are thorough." Amina wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could take care of herself. But she'd seen those men at the pier, seen the cold efficiency of how they moved, seen the casual way they'd loaded whatever was in that plastic-wrapped package. She wouldn't last a day against people like that. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now you stay here. You follow the rules. You don't leave without permission. You don't make phone calls. You don't contact anyone from your former life." His eyes held hers. "In exchange, you get food, shelter, safety. And when this is resolved, if it resolves the way I expect, you'll walk away with enough money to start over properly." "And if I refuse?" "You already made your choice when you opened that door." Amina stared at him. He wasn't threatening her, wasn't even raising his voice, but the weight of his words pressed down like gravity itself. "I don't understand you," she whispered. For just a moment, something flickered in Kaido's eyes, something almost vulnerable. "Good," he said quietly. "That makes two of us." He stood to leave. "Kaido." His name felt strange in her mouth. He turned back. "Why are you helping me? You could have left me in your car, called the police, just walked away." He looked at her for a long moment. "I don't let people die on my watch," he said finally, "and I don't leave messes unresolved." "Is that what I am? A mess?" "You're a complication." His mouth quirked slightly, almost a smile. "But you're alive, and as long as you're under my roof, you'll stay that way." Then he left, locking the door behind him. Amina sat on the bed, processing. She was trapped, but she was safe. She was a prisoner, but she was alive. And somehow, in the space of one terrible night and one strange morning, her entire life had pivoted on a locked car door. She didn't know if that was the worst thing that had ever happened to her, or the best. 3 days passed. They fell into a routine of sorts. Jinwoo brought meals 3 times a day, always hot, always prepared with care. Someone took away her laundry and brought it back clean. The door stayed locked, but the room stopped feeling like a cell and started feeling more like quarantine, maybe. A holding pattern. Amina saw Kaido twice. Once in the hallway, when Jinwoo was escorting her to a different room with better ventilation. They passed each other in the corridor. Kaido's eyes met hers for half a second. Something passed between them, recognition maybe, or curiosity, but he didn't stop. The second time was through a half-open door. Amina was being moved back to her room when she glimpsed him in what looked like an office. He sat behind a massive desk, papers spread before him, speaking rapid Korean into a phone. His voice was different in Korean, sharper, more authoritative. He looked up, saw her watching, and their eyes met for a long moment before Jinwoo gently pushed her along. Both times, she looked away first. On the morning of the third day, Jinwoo entered with breakfast and an odd expression. "Boss wants information," he said, setting down the tray. Not his usual clipped tone, something more serious. "2 nights before you entered the car, where were you exactly?" I told Kaido. "I know what you told him. I'm asking for specifics. Where on the waterfront?" Amina thought back. "Near the Hudson, by the piers, the ones south of 34th Street. Why?" "What time?" "I don't know, maybe 7, 8. I wasn't exactly checking my phone." "Did you see a black van, men loading something?" The memory surfaced clearly now. "Yes, 3 men, nice coats, too nice for the weather, loading something big, wrapped in plastic. Why does it matter?" Jinwoo's expression darkened. "Did they see you?" One looked up. We made eye contact for maybe a second. Then I kept walking. Fast or slow? Faster than before. But I didn't run. Running gets you noticed. Jinwoo nodded slowly, like she'd confirmed something he already suspected. "Listen carefully," he said. "Those men you saw, they work for the Russian Mafia, Kozlov's crew. What they were loading was—" He paused. "It doesn't matter what it was. What matters is that they don't leave witnesses, ever." "I'm not a witness. I didn't see anything important. Just men loading a truck." "You saw faces. You saw the van. You saw the location." Jinwoo's voice was hard. "In their world, that's enough. They've been hunting for you for 3 days, checking shelters, soup kitchens, offering money for any information about a young black woman seen near the piers that night." The room felt suddenly colder. "How much money?" Amina asked. $5,000. Amina's breath left her lungs. $5,000. For people living on the streets, that was a fortune. That was months of food and shelter. That was life-changing money. Someone would talk. Someone would remember seeing her. "Eden," Amina whispered. "I was with someone that evening. Eden. She—" "Then they'll find her, question her, and if she knows anything about where you went—" Amina's chest tightened with guilt and fear. Eden, sweet, paranoid Eden who'd warned her about black luxury cars. "I didn't tell her anything. I didn't even know where I was going. I was walking, that's all." "Good." Jinwoo picked up the tray. "Because if she talks, if anyone talks, Kozlov's men won't just come for you. They'll come through us, and that means war." He left before Amina could respond. She sat on the bed, mind racing. This was so much worse than she'd thought. She wasn't just a homeless girl who'd made a desperate choice. She was a witness to a mafia operation, a variable that could trigger a war between criminal organizations. A problem that needed to be solved, and problems in this world usually got solved permanently. That night, Amina woke to gunfire. Not close. muffled by distance and concrete, but unmistakable. Pop, 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 sharp, rhythmic, getting closer. Her door burst open. Kaido filled the frame, weapon drawn, his face carved from stone. Get up, now, they're here. Amina's body moved before her mind could catch up. She scrambled off the bed. Kaido grabbed her wrist and pulled her into the hallway. More gunfire, louder now, definitely closer. Jinwoo appeared from around a corner, weapon raised, covering their backs. South stairwell is compromised. West exit is clear, but won't be for long. Move, Kaido ordered. They ran. Amina had never run like this in her life. Her legs burned, her lungs screamed, but Kaido pulled her forward, his grip on her wrist like iron, not hurting but absolutely not letting go. They hit a stairwell. Down, down. Emergency lighting flickered overhead, casting everything in red and shadow. A door below them burst open. A man appeared, not Asian, pale skin, Slavic features, raising a weapon. Kaido shoved Amina behind him and fired twice. The man dropped. Amina's ears rang from the gunshot. Her breath came in gasps. She couldn't process what she'd just seen. Couldn't. Eyes on me. Kaido turned, cupping her face with his free hand. His palm was warm. His eyes were steady. Stay behind me. Watch our backs. You see movement? You tell me. Can you do that? Amina nodded, numb. Say it. I can do that. Good. His thumb brushed her cheek once, quick, steadying. Then he was moving again. They burst into the parking garage, the same garage where Amina had woken up 3 days ago. But now it was chaos. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness like lightning. Shouts in Russian and Korean ricocheted off concrete walls. The smell of gunpowder thick in the air. Kaido pulled Amina behind a pillar, his body between her and the violence. He assessed the situation with cold precision. 3 on the left, Amina whispered, surprising herself. Behind the white van. Kaido's head snapped around. You're certain? I saw shadows move, 3 distinct shapes. He stared at her for half a second, something like approval in his eyes. Jinwoo, he called out. Left flank. 3 targets behind the white van. Jinwoo moved like water, fluid and fast, disappeared behind a row of cars. 30 seconds later, the gunfire from the left stopped. Kaido looked at Amina again. You didn't scream. Would it have helped? No? Then why waste the breath? This time, Hitsae-sun smiled sound. Just a flicker, there and gone. I need people who don't panic under fire. I'm panicking plenty, Amina said, just quietly. Even better. More gunfire erupted from the east side. Kaido returned fire, moving with Amina, always keeping his body between her and the danger. Shield, protector, claiming her with every movement. And through it all, Amina watched, learned, saw how he anticipated angles, how he protected his people, how he moved through violence like it was choreographed. This was his world, brutal, efficient, precise. But he hadn't left her behind. Even in the middle of a firefight, he'd come for her. The garage went quiet. Kaido stood in the center, weapon raised, breathing steady. Bodies lay scattered, none his people. Jinwoo checked each one, methodical. Amina leaned against a pillar, legs shaking now that adrenaline was fading. But she was alive. Kaido holstered his weapon and walked back to her. His coat was torn. Blood streaked his jaw. Not his, she thought. He stopped close enough that she could see the pulse at his throat. You did well. I didn't do anything. You didn't panic, didn't freeze, stayed focused. His gaze held hers. That's more than most trained people manage. Who were they? Russians, the ones from the pier. They thought taking you would hurt me. He paused. They were wrong. Wrong how? Kaito stepped closer, crowding her space, deliberate, not threatening. He placed one hand on the pillar beside her head. Because I don't let anyone take what's mine. Amina's breath caught. I'm not yours. Not yet. His thumb traced her jaw. But you will be, because I'm going to give you everything you need to heal. And when you're whole again, I'm going to ask you to choose me, not because you must, because you want to. And if I say no, then you leave with money, documents, a clean start. You'll be safe. His eyes searched hers, but you won't be with me. So my choice is you or loneliness. Your choice is safety with partnership or freedom with risk. He pulled back enough to meet her eyes fully. I won't pretend it's fair, but I'll keep you alive, and I'll treat you like you matter. Amina searched his face for cruelty, manipulation, found only brutal honesty. Why do you care? Because you trusted me enough to fall asleep in my car. That means something. His hand moved to her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. You're stronger than you know. I don't want to see that wasted. Something cracked open in Amina's chest. What do you want from me? I want you to stay. Let me protect you, and when it's safe, you decide what comes next. And if I want to leave then? Then you leave. His thumb traced her jaw. But I won't let you go until the danger passes. Amina closed her eyes, tried to think clearly, but all she felt was the solid warmth of him, the strange safety of being wanted, even in a world this dark. Okay, I'll stay. Because you choose to? Because right now, staying alive means staying here. And I'm choosing life. Relief flashed across his face. He pulled her into his arms, holding her against his chest, and for the first time in months, Amina felt safe. The next morning, Amina woke in a different room, larger, with a real window overlooking the East River. Sunlight poured across the bed, fresh clothes waited, breakfast, and a note in precise handwriting. You can move freely in the West Wing. Jinwoo will be nearby. Kshimei dressed and found the kitchen. Massive marble counters, commercial appliances. Jinwoo stood at the island with coffee and a tablet. He glanced up when she entered, expression marginally less hostile. Boss said you can eat whatever you want. Pause. You handled yourself well last night. Coming from him, it felt like a medal. Thanks. She poured coffee and went to the window. The city sprawled below, endless, chaotic, beautiful. Somewhere out there was the street where she'd found Kaido's car, the corner where she'd lost her grandmother's photograph. It felt like another lifetime. Behind her, the door opened. How did you sleep? Kaito asked. Better than I have in half a year. He came to stand beside her, hands in pockets, looking at the same view. In daylight, he looked different. Less shadow, more man. Tired, complicated, human. Jinwoo verified your story. About Mrs. Chen, the apartment, everything. You told the truth. I said I did. People lie to me constantly. I'm not most people. His mouth quirked. No, you're not. They stood in silence watching the river catch light. There's a meeting tonight, Kaito said eventually, with my father. He wants to know who you are and why I'm keeping you here. Amina's stomach tightened. Will he? He won't hurt you. but he'll ask questions. Answer honestly. Can you? Yes. After tonight, things change. Either they accept you, or I arrange your relocation. New city, new identity, safe. You'd really do that? I keep my word. She studied his face, searching for the angle, found only certainty. Why go this far for someone you barely know? Kaito was quiet. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd heard. Because when I found you in my car, you weren't scheming. You were just trying to make it to morning. His hand found hers. I know what that feels like. Amina's throat closed. She turned her hand over, threading fingers through his. Then let's make it through tonight. His grip tightened. Together. The meeting room smelled of wood polish and old books. A long table surrounded by men in expensive suits, watching Amina like she was a bomb. At the head sat Boss Ree, older than Kaito, silver threading his hair, eyes that had seen everything twice. He studied Amina with cold calculation. Kaito sat beside her, shoulders touching, a statement. So, Boss Ree said in accented English, his tone sharp, you are the girl who broke into my son's car, who witnessed Kozlov's shipment, who brought the Russian mafia to my door. The room went cold. I didn't know what I saw, Amina managed. I didn't tell anyone. You didn't have to. Boss Ree leaned forward. Your face was enough. Kozlov's men have circulated your description for days. You exist. That makes you a dangerous variable. He let the words hang. Dangerous to us because keeping you invites conflict. Dangerous to yourself because leaving means death. He turned to Kaito. My son has claimed you, made you our problem. So I ask him, what do we do with this variable? Every eye turned to Kaito. She stays, under my protection, under our name, and when Kozlov demands her life as payment? He can try, he'll fail. Boss Ree's jaw tightened. Father and son stared at each other, a silent war. Finally, Boss Ree nodded once. She stays, but she earns her place. She works, she proves value. If she becomes more trouble than she's worth. His eyes cut to Amina. We revisit this. Understood, Kaito said. And you, Boss Ree told Amina. You never speak of the pier, never contact your former life, never leave without permission. Clear? Yes, sir. Good, because if you betray this family, you'll fear us more than Kozlov. The men filed out, some casting dark looks, others indifferent. When the room emptied, Kaito exhaled. He thinks I'm a liability, Amina whispered. He thinks you might get me killed. There's a difference. Is he right? Kaito's hand found hers. I don't care. 2 weeks later, Amina stood in the training room, arms aching from drills. Jinwoo had warmed to her slowly, teaching her blocks, strikes, awareness. Better, he said as she deflected his strike. Keep your elbow tight. Gaps get you killed. Motivational. Honest. Kaito appeared in the doorway, watching. He'd been doing that, showing up when she trained, worked, read, not hovering, present. Amina met his eyes and smiled. He smiled back. After training, she found him in his office, reviewing documents. Your father wants me on bookkeeping, she said, sitting across from him. Says if I'm staying, I should be useful. Are you okay with that? Yes, I'm good with numbers. Kaito nodded, studying her face. How are you really? Better. I still dream about being cold, but I wake up warm. That matters. It does. She leaned forward. Can I ask something? Always. What if someday I want to leave? Not from fear, but because I've healed enough to build my own life? Kaido didn't flinch. Then I help you, give you everything you need to start safely, and let you go. You'd really do that? Yes. Amina's chest ached with warmth. What if I don't want to leave? His eyes sharpened. What? What if I want to stay? Not because I have to, but because I choose to be here. With you. Kaido went still, then he moved around the desk to kneel before her chair, eye to eye. If you stay, it's because you want to, not obligation, not fear, choice. Understand? Yes. And if you change your mind, I know you'll let me go. He searched her face. I need you to be certain. I am certain. His hand cupped her cheek. I've never wanted anything as much as I want you to stay. But I need you free more than I need you here. What if I can be both? His breath caught. Then we figure it out, together. Amina leaned forward and kissed him, gentle, sure. Kaito kissed back like she was precious, his hand sliding into her hair, arm wrapping around her waist. When they broke apart, foreheads touching, he whispered, "Stay with me, not because you must, because you want to." I want to. I choose this. I choose you. His arms tightened. Then you're mine, and I'm yours. That might be a long time. Good. I don't do anything halfway. Amina laughed, and it felt like sunlight breaking through. 6 months later, Amina reviewed ledgers in her small office. Boss Ree had been true to his word. She'd earned her place through bookkeeping, learning the legitimate business, proving she was more than trouble. The men had stopped watching her like a threat, started nodding when she passed. She'd found her strength here, found her place, found him. The door opened. Kaito entered with tea, expressions softening when he saw her. Still working? Almost done? Your father wants quarterly reports by tomorrow. He can wait. Kaito sat on her desk. You need rest. I'm not fragile anymore. No. His hand found hers. You never were. Amina smiled, threading fingers through his. They'd built something real. Late-night conversations over Korean food, comfortable silences, unexpected laughter. Partnership built on respect and choice. I've been thinking, Kaito said quietly, about what comes next. What comes next? For us. His thumb brushed her knuckles. I told you I'd wait until you were ready, until you knew this was real. Her heart quickened. And I think you're ready. He slid off the desk to kneel before her, holding her hand. I want to build a life with you, Amina. Real partnership, equality, future. He pulled out a small box. Marry me, not because my world demands it, not for safety, but because I love you, because you make me better, because I want to wake knowing you chose me. Tears pricked her eyes. You love me? I've loved you since you fell asleep in my car, trusting without reason. His expression was vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. Say yes, let me spend my life proving I was worth choosing. Amina pulled him up and kissed him, soft, deep, sure. Yes, I'll marry you. Kaito's arms wrapped around her, lifting her to hold her close. Stay with me, he whispered against her lips. Choose me again. I choose you, always. Later, on the rooftop terrace, snow fell gently. Nothing like the storm that brought them together. Kaito showed her his phone. Building plans, floor layouts. What is this? A community center. For people like you were. Homeless, forgotten, surviving. We provide shelter, job training, counseling. Help them find their way back. He stood behind her. I want to build it with you. Amina's throat closed. Because of me? Because you showed me what strength looks like, what dignity looks like when everything's stripped away. He turned her to face him. Help me build something that matters. That's inspirational. Kaido smiled. Then say yes. Yes, to all of it. They stood together, watching city lights through falling snow. Somewhere below, Eden was still out there. Amina had sent money anonymously, left supplies. When the center opened, maybe Eden would find her way there. And Amina would be waiting. What are you thinking? Kaido asked. That I broke into your car, looking for 5 minutes of warmth. She looked up at him. And found a lifetime instead. Kaido pulled her close, coat wrapping them both. You stay with me now. Always. I choose you every day. In the quiet snow, with the city below, and warmth surrounding her, Amina Carter understood what it meant to come home. Not to a place. To a person who saw her worth when she'd forgotten it. To a future they'd build together. One choice, one day, one brave moment at a time. 1 year later, Amina unlocked the community center door, flipping on lights. The space was small but warm. Donated furniture, a teaching kitchen, rooms for tutoring and job training. Her project, her dream, funded by the reorganization run by her. A place where invisible people could be seen again. She'd named it Second Chances. Participants would arrive in an hour. Amina checked the coffee maker, straightened chairs, reviewed schedules. The door opened. Kaido stepped in with 2 cups of tea. He'd started doing this, bringing breakfast, helping set up, staying for morning sessions. You're early, she said, smiling. I like watching you work. He handed her tea. You shine when you're helping people. It's motivational, seeing someone find purpose. Very. He kissed her forehead. How many today? 12, 3 new faces. Good. Pride clear in his expression. My grandmother would have loved this. She always said the strongest people survive. And then help others survive too. Amina leaned into him. I had a good teacher. You taught yourself. I just gave you space. You gave me everything. The door opened. A young woman entered. Maybe 19, backpack, nervous eyes. Amina recognized that look. Uncertainty. Hope fighting fear. She stepped forward, smiling. Hi. Welcome to Second Chances. I'm Amina. The girl hesitated. I'm Maya. I heard you help people trying to start over. We do. Amina gestured to a chair. Come in. Have tea. Tell me your story. Maya's shoulders relaxed. She stepped inside. And Amina thought, this is what it was all for. The cold night, the desperate choice, the locked door that clicked open. All of it led here, to warmth, purpose, love, to a life built with her own hands, beside someone who saw her worth before she remembered it. Kaito caught her eye across the room and smiled. Amina smiled back. Then she turned to Maya, ready to listen, ready to help, ready to be what she'd needed when she had nothing. Because that's what real romance was. Not just loving someone, but becoming someone who could love themselves, each other, and a world that almost broke them. It was inspirational not because it was easy, but because it was hard, and they'd done it anyway. Together, snow began falling outside. But Amina wasn't afraid. She had a home to return to, and someone waiting who would always leave the light on. If this story of survival, love, and transformation touched your heart, Subscribe for more tales where dignity meets romance, where strength rises from brokenness, and where one courageous choice can change everything. Comment and share. Which moment resonated most? Amina's desperate decision, the garage battle, the proposal? Your stories matter to me. Thank you for spending this time with Amina and Kaito. Sleep well tonight, knowing that sometimes the coldest moments lead us to the warmest destinations. Until next time, be brave, be kind, and remember that it's never too late for a second chance. Good night and sweet dreams.